Reading books is useless. What happens after reading the book is what counts. What's the end goal of reading? The end goal is the transfer of knowledge and the following transformational process. You want to get some knowledge that will open a new set of possibilities in your life when you use this knowledge. And only if you use it. That's key. If you don't use it, by definition, it becomes useless. So reading was a waste of time. Let's get into greater details. And let's fix this problem of reading. Is it useless? Is it useful? Once and for all. How many times have you heard somebody telling you that they read 1 or 2 or 3, 4 books per week? Or maybe even 1 book a day? If it's a novel, no problem. You can easily digest 200, 300 pages of a novel 1 or twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, if you make some room, if you're planning. But if we are talking about business books or personal development books, there is a problem, a big problem. My question is, what do they mean by reading? The main, or maybe even sole purpose of reading business and personal development books is to get better by learning something. The process looks like something like this. You read, you implement, you get results, then you reread, you analyze, you redo it better, and then you get better results, you refine, you get even better, and so on. My point is that it's a process that takes time. Whatever you want to change in your business, you have to understand it, to plan it, to do it yourself, or find and train the right person to do it, analyze it, redo it, reanalyze, refine, and so on. Now, if you tell me that you read 1 or 2 business or personal development books per week, there are 3 possibilities. 1, you have the power to implement new things on your business and your life at the speed of light, and therefore you are probably growing multiple 8-figure businesses every year, right? Second possibility, if you keep reading 1 or 2 business books per week, you go from book to book that fast because these books were useless to you, with nothing new for you to implement. In which case, you should have probably figured it out before, like halfway through the book, rather than wasting any more of your precious time on it. So in the future, just choose books with more discernment and cut them out sooner if they are useless to you. All right? Third possibility, the most common, you read many business books per month because there were great things in these books, but you didn't take the time to implement them at all. In which case, you should go back to the book and start applying the ideas, the concepts in your life and in your business. Don't jump on another book before you have applied all the things that you have read, the valuable things. Be 100% into it. Let's be clear. Ask yourself what the purpose of reading a book is. It's a transformational process, right? Are we on the same page on that? Always keep this in mind. You pick something new, an idea, a theory, a concept from a book, and now you want to realize it, to materialize, to create something tangible, to get concrete results in the real life, in your life. That's the only purpose of reading business books. And there's another last possibility, the fourth one. You read a book, and there are great ideas in there that you do plan to implement on your business later. later meaning never, most of the time. My suggestion is to concentrate on the insights that you can start implementing right now. There's a quote of Robert Kiyosaki that says something like, "The problem with tomorrow is that I have never seen a tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist except in the mind of dreamers and losers." End of quote. If you need the information of that book later, then read it later. If your business is not yet at the growth stage required for these ideas to be implemented, there's no need to spend your time on it now. Reading books that you will need later is like putting your car's 4th or 5th gear while you are driving at 20 miles per hour, just for the reason that you will need it later. But you are not going very fast, meanwhile, okay? Now, I want you to imagine someone who's read hundreds of business or personal development books. Can you imagine where this person or their business would be if they had followed and implemented all the instructions they have read? What I want you to understand is that browsing is not reading. Reading is not studying. And studying is not experiencing. These are the 4 levels of reading. Again, the first level, browsing, is reading without learning anything. This happens when you lack concentration, when you are sleep deprived, when you are totally distracted, or when you are drunk. You may as well be reading a foreign language. You totally lack focus. That's what we casually call browsing, okay? The second level of reading is reading and getting the ideas. You are following the narrative, exactly as when you read a novel or a comic strip. The easy side of reading. That's what we call reading, okay? The third level is reading and taking notes, or highlighting the important sections, as if you had to teach somebody and share the important insights of the book with somebody else. That's studying, okay? And the fourth level of reading is reading and experiencing it. You implement your new knowledge. That's living, okay? You implement in your life what you have just read. Now, I want you to look at the last 2 or 3 business books that you have read and to ask yourself what your level of reading was. And by the way, the same principles apply to going to conferences or taking online courses. Are you browsing, taking some good time and avoiding taking action? Or are you really committed to implementing what you are reading? If you are in the latter camp, then there's no need to take any other course or book or to go to any other conference until you have applied the knowledge you have already read in some valuable books, until you have transformed your business. Going back to the initial example, if someone tells you that they read 2 books per week, 3 books per week, or something, what this person is talking about is either level 1 or level 2 reading. Reading 2 or 3 books per week at level 3 on a regular basis is almost impossible if you are working full-time. Not to mention level 4. As long as we are not talking about the recreational reading of novels and, say, other classical works of fiction, reading is not an end in itself. The purpose of reading business books is to access the mind of an expert on a topic that's of interest to us, to be able to transform something in our lives and create a positive impact. If this author, this expert, was a good friend or a family member, we would have direct access to them. We wouldn't even need any book, right? The book is just the medium, the tool that allows us to pick the brain. Okay? The knowledge is what we need before implementing it. Now imagine that this friend or family member likes you and decides to spend multiple hours of their personal time teaching you. Once the teaching is done, you can easily conceive that they would also like to follow up with you to know what you have done, where you're at in the execution phase. What would you have to show for all your mentoring? How different is your business thanks to what you have learned? Think about it. The same applies to your book. Imagine the author coming back and asking you, what have you done? All right? Now, just to mention, I understand that reading has other benefits, learning new words and using them. That allows us to expand our vocabulary and use the exact words to describe our ideas, to be able to clearly and precisely articulate all our thoughts. I get expanding our repertoire of words means expanding our vision. That's great. And that's why I always encourage people to read, especially the younger generation, regardless of what they read. I have nothing against reading classic texts. In fact, quite the opposite. But when you decide to read, I want you to understand where you are. You can read between the lines when someone is talking about reading 1 or 2 books per week. Are they really reading with intent? Of course not. Such a person is in the business of reading books. That's it. Not in the business of applying anything. Reading a book, like taking a course, going to school, or getting trained, is not about knowing. It's about becoming. Again, it's a transformational process. If you plan to transform your life, you have to read books at level 4. Period. Read, live, and breathe them. Implement what you learn. And if it's something that will be valuable for you later, make sure later is not never. Schedule it. If you can't schedule it because it's too far, then don't read this book. Read only things you can apply today. Okay? Yeah, but that's how I get inspired. That's what I hear all the time. I prefer you to work uninspired than to not work inspired. Always ask yourself if what you will study is something you can implement right away. And besides, once you have read about 1/3 of a book, if you think there's nothing new to implement for you, throw it away. Don't hesitate. Your time is precious. There are tons of valuable books out there with tons of things to implement. Okay, implementation is the name of the game. There's a time for preparation, like reading, and there's a time for action. Upgrading your skills is imperative, but that's all preparation. Don't confuse preparation and action. Most of your time must be devoted to action. Think about it for a short while, and then take action.